Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. We've had a kind of busy couple of weeks, notwithstanding even the holiday period at Cherry, as most of you know. The bridge is completed, and a lot of you have been using it, which is great to see. We had a pretty big update from Herman last week. The reason for the delay with this AMA was I was hoping that Herman could join us today. He's on a call with one of our partners at the moment, so that's the reason for his absence. However, with regards to, or as a follow-up from last week, I want to go over some things with you and just kind of add some more context to what Herman spoke about in his last two AMAs. There was one on the 16th of December and one on the 27th of December. So I just want to address some of the possibly less prominent but nonetheless important issues that have been discussed by Herman. A few more questions about them in our Discord and in our Telegram group, and as well as that, some other things that I would like to discuss and just give you guys an idea for. It is the start of 2024. As we mentioned last week, we have a very strong position coming into the new year. We've had plenty of challenges, like all projects have. When you're working in this kind of space, things are quite complex, things are quite difficult. You're working on very difficult problems on the cutting edge of technology, quite a complex technology in and of itself, which is essentially Web3 cryptography. But that being said, things that were promised to be delivered upon have been delivered upon. So now we can just push on and set the next targets for the project in development terms, but also in business terms, etc. So hang on, I'm just going to fix my laptop because it's kind of on a tilt. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is preview some of the things that will be discussed in the newsletter that will go out this week. I wanted to have the newsletter done for last week, but unfortunately, on my end, I had some things, unexpected things came up. You know what it's like over the holidays. Traveling and such, and I was also waiting for some further details from our team regarding some plans. But this will be released over the course of the next 48 hours, I'd say, maybe even today, whenever Herman gets around to pushing it out. For those of you who have been closely following the AMAs, it's not generally going to involve or contain that much groundbreaking information for you guys, but for all of those who are tuning in who maybe want a more comprehensive and fleshed out explanation for what we've discussed over the past 3-4 weeks, then the newsletter will be good in that respect, and I'm going to try and give some more context to it now over the next 10-15 minutes. It will be a short AMA. We're also quite busy with holidays and other things, so we won't have a quiz today, but we will have resume our quiz schedule, so to speak, next week, and we will also have there are quite a few people that are waiting for prizes and stuff, so we'll address that in the next week. Sorry again for the delay with that. It's just been very hectic at the moment lately. So just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to get my notes out, so I'm going to just give you guys a rundown of what's going to be discussed in the newsletter, which will go out, and then I'll probably address some of the other questions that people have had around some other things. So bear with me 1 second. Just got to get my notes out. Now here we go. Okay, so I think that in terms of a retrospective, we have over the past 18 months or so actually achieved a lot with the project, between very important and instrumental things such as, and this is really looking back from the mainnet until now, really important things such as the release of the layer 0 technology. And I'd like to just touch on that again because it is quite important. And just kind of refresh as a means of a retrospective what that involves and why it's important. Essentially, a layer one is, the original Web3 project, the original cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, was a layer one. I think in some ways it has evolved into a layer zero, but a layer one is essentially the base chain from which layer twos and in turn layer threes operate off. A layer zero is one level of abstraction further down or further up. I'm not even sure how you would kind of necessarily define that, but it essentially means that it provides a protocol that can be used by external projects to kind of run their own chain, their own layer one chain. So a layer zero is even potentially could be described as a set of tools that can be used for very very fundamental and very dynamic technological solutions in Web3. And I wanted to mention that because there was a lot of discussion, obviously, about the bridge and the bridge being released. And essentially, I would like to give just an insight into the strategic vision of the project. And this has been going on for quite a while. So this isn't just a recent development. And that's what I just want to kind of discuss with you guys today. So you might remember during previous AMAs, Herman has been describing some of the technical challenges and the technical obstacles that they have overcome in the releasing the bridge functionality. And what that means is that it's not quite as simple and straightforward as you would think. It's not just a question of flicking a switch and then a bridge becomes two ways. It's actually quite challenging. And one of the reasons for it being so challenging is that it does interact, or it has some ramifications, or receives some ramifications from the release of EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine functionality that happened earlier on last year. In turn, the EVM release was part of our wider strategy to make the Cherry ecosystem and the Cherry environment as attractive as possible to other projects and other developers working obviously in the Ethereum sphere, so that it wouldn't be a question of siloed technology, and that there wouldn't be obstacles for people coming from Web3 developers or projects who are in the largest Web3 environment for development anyway, which is Ethereum, that would be a seamless interaction for them to be able to use Cherry functionality and the things that Cherry can do around smart contracts and decentralized file storage, that would be easy to absorb, easy for them to absorb that functionality into their existing business and technical model. And then previous to that was the release of the layer zero technology. So instead of, just to give you guys an insight into the strategic philosophy of the project over the past 2 years, it's that we could have immediately focused on storage after the mainnet release, but instead of just focusing on storage, the decision was made to make the Cherry mainnet and the Cherry environment as integratable with other chains and with other major projects as possible. And in keeping with that philosophy, the decision was also made for it to be a layer zero technology. So what that means is that we could have just jumped to the end target, which is, to provide this very high-powered decentralized storage capacity, but instead of that would limit us in the long run. So because we're quite an ambitious project, we wanted to um, we wanted to lay the foundations that would allow us to attract a much larger audience of developers and other projects and potential partners down the line, as opposed to if we had something that was very siloed within the Cherry ecosystem. So I just wanted to recap that and explain some of the choices that were made, which in hindsight has resulted in a huge amount of development work being successful, and a huge amount of roadmap being progressed through over the past 2 years, not least of all 2023. And now as we move into 2024, and this is the point of what I was trying to say, now we have a lot of things in place, such as EVM, such as layer zero technology. That means that when we now focus on the real core, because I mean, having a layer zero, having EVM compatibility is on its own with nothing else totally useless. The point is that our core value proposition is very much strengthened by the fact that these things are in place. And as we now approach the next milestone, which is to really, the Cherry storage module exists as it is, but it isn't as built out or as market, it's not a market beater in and of itself now. As we re-emphasize marketing and community, as we build out the functionality of the Cherry storage module, and given the fact that we have things like EVM and layer zero capability in place already, and all these things are either done already or will be carried out in the coming days, weeks, and months. That means that we are coming to an inflection point, we hope, with regards to the whole project in terms of where it will go in the next year. This is fortunately and very thankfully coinciding with a resurgence in the Web3 market compared to 18 months ago, 12 months ago. And that really was the most, for those of you who have been around for a while, it's not the first downturn you've seen, but these things do come. They come and go, but when they're here, it really constrains, from a business perspective, what's actually possible. So with regards to 2024, I hope that this gives you some kind of idea of where the project is. Herman was quite comprehensive in describing, from a technical perspective and from a mission perspective, what was the next steps, or what the next steps will be. Whereas I'm just trying to give you guys some insight and kind of retrospective on the decisions that were made until now. This is nothing really new. This has been discussed by Herman and others in previous AMAs going back, over a year. But the point is, and the point that I wanted to get across, was that sometimes the longer horizon, the longer, the less granular perspective on the development of the project is lost because of the focus on the short-term goals. Most recently, and most notably, recently, the bridge release. I hope that gives you an idea of where things stand as we go into 2024 from a more high level. What we're going to do, and this leads me into the next thing that I wanted to discuss, which is the to-do list, so to speak, for the project in the coming weeks and months. As I mentioned, we will be refocusing on the core storage module in a way that makes that as business ready as possible. As Herman said last week, we have the capabilities to compete with these massively much larger projects, such as, SIA, etc. But at the moment, it's not just it's not a question of just turning on marketing and then expecting to go right up against them immediately. There are some more things that we want to work on with the storage module. It is still a very impressive piece of technology as it stands. This is something that our partners often, they often explain, reinforce this when talking to other potential business leads, that a lot has been successfully achieved by the Cherry team. But in the near future, that will be the focus from a development perspective. As I've said many times before, this is a development-driven project. It is a technology-driven project, and it is not a hype or marketing-driven project, because in the long run, if your business isn't actually selling anything useful, then it's probably not something that could be sustained very profitably in the long run. Now, as you have heard me discuss now and before, and as Herman said last time, we are in a position where we can really focus on the more concrete business development goals in terms of very standard and straightforward kind of marketing, communications, and from a development perspective, as I just said at length, the focus on the Cherry storage module. So now we're really coming to a point where the pieces are in place for us to really go up against the market and to really get involved in the market. And now, which is what Herman was saying over his past two AMAs, now we focus on actual real revenue, not so much just, it's not that we won't be ignoring the potential for partnerships in the near future at all, but we will be emphasizing that the core goal of the project for the coming months is business development and doing things to support business development. Among these things is we're going to start back up the blog. So I think that Herman will give a more, I would say, eloquent analysis or an eloquent account of what I've just discussed, and he'll write that in our Medium, which should go out pretty soon. First and foremost is what I discussed earlier, which is the newsletter, which will go out in this sometime between now and Friday. And on top of this, as Herman discussed, we have to do things to refocus on the core Cherry brand, increase our interactions with our partners, and increase our presence in the real world at things like events, etc. Increase our community initiatives like hackathons and that kind of stuff, bug bounties, etc. And of course, and probably most importantly but not quite as complex, is that we just need to revamp and push out our material on social networks as much as possible, or sorry, in as appropriately a way as possible. So we were quite active on social media before. Up until very recently, we were frequently involved in things like calls and discussions on Telegram, on Twitter. We're going to start doing that again with some of our partners. We're going to start, tweeting anything and everything about the project very soon. All this will come in the coming days and weeks. We'll kind of revamp and refocus on these things, which I know has been something that people have asked about quite a lot. But now it's the time that is most appropriate for this, and it's also fortuitous that it comes at a time when there's increased and renewed interest in the Web3 space and better market and industry sentiment going on there as well. In terms of in-person events, I have been attending quite a lot of events from a business development perspective over the past 6 months, 9 months. I never really stopped doing that. If there's something or some kind of venue or event where I can go and talk to people about Cherry and even just find out what they're doing and kind of build links, then I'll always do that. But we're going to double down on that with other members of the team, and we're going to host our own events. We don't really think that we're not an event organizer company. That's not our job. So spending tons and tons of resources and time on hosting fancy events that requires a lot of effort on our part and money is not really a good idea. But at the same time, there's quite low-hanging fruit that the community enjoy and take part in, which we will start doing again, I would say, from February onwards. So all the details of that will come in the near future, but we will keep you posted on what we're planning. Aside from that, we will, as I mentioned before, have these kind of community initiatives like hackathons, etc., that you guys can take part in, book bounties as well, which we have done a couple of over the past year, and they were successful. So there's no reason for us to not to double down on that. And finally, I would like to just touch on the fact that in terms of speaking of our to-do list, we've always tried to keep a reasonably good contact with our partners and the people that we work with in other projects or in other firms or investment firms, etc. We're going to revamp that and double down on it now that we have more time and we have more bandwidth for that. So while we won't be pursuing kind of flashy partnerships for their own sake, because of the decision that we've made to just focus on the much more straightforward and important business goals, real business goals, as opposed to just kind of marketing buzz. We will still always explore any and all avenues for productive partnerships that will actually benefit the project in real business terms. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Sorry for talking for too long. I'm just going to double check to see if there's been any important questions coming in. I don't think there has. So what I'm going to do is we will have more communications for you this week, or at least between now and next Wednesday. I'm going to do a summary of this quite long discussion, and then I will publish that at some point tomorrow. And in the meantime, as always, if you have any questions regarding anything that I've said or in general, I received a couple of support queries over the past 72 hours, which I will get to probably today. So if I haven't been able to reply to you since, then it's just been quite a busy few days, so I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, I would like to wish you all a very happy new year, and I would like to thank you again for your continued support, without which we wouldn't be where we are now. And where we are now is at a pretty promising juncture, where a lot of technical achievements have been logged, and now we can really put them to good use to the benefit of the entire project, the team, our partners, and last but not least, our community and all you guys who have given us such strong support from day one. And we're looking forward to engaging with you more on the things we're working on, and looking forward to continuing to build on the kind of momentum in the community that we've experienced recently. So I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to have our regular AMA next week, where we'll talk more in nitty-gritty detail about what's been going on over the past week. But in the meantime, I will wish you all again a happy new year. And any questions, just drop me a line, either by DM or on Discord, or alternatively, you can just post them in the chat. So I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks very much.